Good I am Siddharth. I am 40 years old and I have autism. What is autism? Autism is a hidden illness. It is said one in every 100 people in this world has autism.
I met Siddharth a week ago at Changangkha Middle Secondary School. Siddharth is a smart boy. He loves words and computer. Like Siddharth, there are 5 other children with autism in his class. They are all different and beautiful in their own ways. To understand them better and their complexities, I spent some time with them at the special education unit at Changangkha Middle Secondary School.
Good. I'm going to give you a smiley.
There are over 2,000 children registered as autistic in Bhutan. Thimphu alone has 83 children diagnosed with autism. Children with autism and multiple disorders are enrolled in a self-contained class.
When I first came here, actually, the plan was there right from 2001. So this special education, I had a hope. Actually, how I came to this school is because of my son, because I wanted him to be in special ed. I have a son with special needs, and the ministry had already had the plan to start special education. So I had hope to bring my son to the school, but I had never dreamt of being a special education teacher myself. So in 2002, it was officially launched by
As autism is very new in Bhutan, most Bhutanese are not aware of autism. To find out more about autism, I had a brief conversation with Dr. Angela James, who is a child psychologist from Australia. Dr. Angela has traveled and worked in the United States, California, and North Carolina, and in Australia.
My first encounter with autism was actually coming from a research perspective rather than a clinical perspective, because I was interested in perception and sensory processing, and they are a particular group of children that have an unusual way of processing sensory information. So I went and visited an autistic program in Sydney. Then this is now about 30 years ago, and the children were just so interesting and so fascinating that, and I've continued, working with them ever since. But at the time, I didn't actually know very much about what an autistic child looked like. But it was, yes, they're a very interesting and intriguing group of children.
Yes, doctor, talking about autism, how common is autism in the world?
Around about 1% of the population around the world is a generally accepted figure, and that figure is across countries, across ethnic groups, across socio-economic groups as well. And so it's not particularly confined to any one country or any one particular ethnic grouping or any socio-economic group.
Yes, doctor, what exactly causes autism?
Autism's a neurological disorder, what we call a pervasive developmental neurological disorder. That means, the neurological means it's to do with the brain, and pervasive means that it affects many areas of development. So it's a brain disorder, it's a biologically based brain disorder. There have been many years of research looking at the organic factors, neurological factors, genetic factors that might cause this. No one cause has yet been determined, and it will probably be that there will be perhaps half a dozen causes.
Doctor, is there a physical symptom of autism?
The generally accepted diagnostic criteria for autism, two main areas. One is difficulties with what we call social communication, and that's either rarely using language or not having any language at all, not responding when people talk to you. But one of the other areas of social communication is imitation, so not clapping when mum claps, not copying other people, generally not having any interest. That's the first area, and the second area is what we call fixated interests, repetitive behaviours, and a lot of those areas of sensory sensitivity that we were talking about earlier, and that can be lining up toys and so on. In general, most parents don't notice things being different until the child is often 2 or 3, particularly when they are delayed in their milestones, so they're not walking when they should, they're not beginning to speak when they should. But the diagnosis of autism is generally only given when that disorder is present very early in childhood. And when you go back and talk to the parents with a clinical interview, most parents, and particularly mothers, will say, I always knew there was something wrong. And that knowing is generally that very social interaction between a mother and a child. The baby might be a bit limp and floppy, not reactive when you pick them up, even as a little baby wasn't looking at you, wasn't orienting, and parents think there's something not right here, but because it's not a very obvious thing, they don't do anything about it, and they might let it go. But generally, yes. In hindsight, most parents will know from a fairly early age.
Researchers have found that most autism cases are common among boys as compared to girls. Is it true?
Yes.
What could be the reason?
There's a ratio of about 4 to 1 of boys to girls with autism, and research generally indicates that this is because the female brain is more robust than the male brain, and therefore it's not as susceptible to the kinds of subtle genetic mutations that are happening with autism. So female brains are also more resilient, what we call more plastic. So if they have damage in one area, they're often capable of picking up that skill in another area. Boys' brains tend to be more specialised, not as generalised, so if there's damage in one area, those brains also tend not to be as plastic as female brains.
Doctor, is it possible for a child born with autism to lead a normal life later with proper with timely intervention and proper care?
It depends very much on the level of ability of the child. Autism is a spectrum, what we call a spectrum, so it ranges from children with a severe level of disability through to children with a mild level of disability. The children with a mild level of disability who have reasonable language skills can often have very good academic skills. For those children, particularly with intervention around social skills, there is every chance, yes, that they will lead.
So what is the advantage of having an autistic child as well? What is the beautiful side of that?
Well, I think all children are beautiful, but autistic children are particularly interesting. They're a very challenging group to work with. They have a wide variety of behaviours and a wide variety of skills and abilities, and that variety can show itself between children but also within the child, and these children just when you think you've got to understand them and know their behaviours, they pop up with something absolutely extraordinary, and you think, where did that come from? And so it's that complexity and that range of behaviours in autistic children that make them particularly interesting. And I think when you find a way to improve that social communication and that social interaction, it's very rewarding then to see them improve their skills and improve their abilities. All children, I think, want to learn, and the challenge for us is to find ways to allow them to learn and to be able to make the best of their unique abilities. Particularly in areas that require attention to detail and a great deal of focus, then autistic people, autistic adults are absolute whizzes. Computers, the IT industry, libraries are another great place for, we've placed a lot of autistic adults very successfully in libraries where it requires that attention, you know, numbers, order and so on. So there are many areas that the skills of autism can contribute greatly to an employer.
And is there a cure for autism?
No.
Why?
We've not been able to discover what causes autism, and so in the absence of finding out what causes autism, we haven't been able to find a cure. There is also no medical test, no blood test, no biological test that you can give to see if somebody has autism. So there's not a cure, but I think that certainly in my time working with this group of children, there have been significant advances in early intervention, in special education programs, in awareness of ways that we can help those children improve this.
Dr. Angela, like most people say children with autism are special, they are like rainbow, they are mysterious. So what is your personal view on that?
I think they're right. I think they are special. As I said, all children are special, but I think the interest of autistic children is this complexity and this variety. And no 2 days are the same when you have an autistic child. And their perceptions are often extraordinarily unique and unusual, and they will come out with things that you think, wow, that is really amazing. Children can have very extraordinary artistic talents. Some of them can be very musical. They mightn't be very good at anything else, but they'll be very good at music, and that can be very interesting working with them. So I think for parents, every day is a new day of mystery with autistic children.
Yes, and a last question, Doctor. How important is it for the parents, teachers and society as a whole to treat the special children with special care?
I think it's obviously important to teach all children with special care, and I think for autistic children to realise that they do have a great many skills to offer, and those skills cannot be developed if they're hidden away in houses. Being aware and understanding the difficulties that these children have is very important, and not forcing them to necessarily be like us, but finding a halfway house where we can enjoy their skills, they can enjoy us, but we don't have to force them.
Doctor, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, it's been a great pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Eva Lee is a speech therapist from Australia, currently stationed at Changangkha Middle Secondary School. Eva says it is possible for parents to spot early signs of autism in their child.
So with autism, it can be a bit difficult, but there are things that a parent can look for. One of the main things is to look at, are they developing normally? So are they hitting the developmental milestones for not just for speech and language, but also for, say, walking as well as maybe fine motor skills as well, and social skills. Are they hitting those milestones is one really key one to look at. Another thing they could look for is also how responsive the baby is to them. So with a child with autism, often they don't make the effort to initiate with things. So they might not look very much at someone, or they might not reach out their arms to want to hug their mum or dad and things like that. One other thing to look for is sometimes with children with autism, they will lose skills that they have learned. So say, for example, they've started talking, they might gradually lose that skill of talking as well, or with walking.
Eve also said most autistic children have lots of potential but remains misunderstood.
Oh, they are different. I guess they are in some ways to us a bit of a mystery as well, because there is so much going on inside their heads that is different to how we might think. But just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. And often they might have lots of ideas that we might not have thought of yet. So I guess in some ways people with autism do have a unique set of skills, but it's difficult for us to tap into it, or for them to be able to use it well. And so I guess often when we work with children with autism, that's what we want to tap into as well. Yes, one of the big things for children with autism is they are often excluded in the community because they do look so different and so strange, maybe, in some of their habits and behaviours. So I guess including them as part of a community, whether it's in sports or in helping out with something in the community, is quite important for them.
As the number of children being diagnosed with autism is increasing every year in Bhutan, there is shortage of adequate facilities.
There are a lot of challenges in dealing with these children. Firstly, it's with the lack of expertise in myself, because I'm not a fully trained or specialized teacher for special education. And this autism is even more challenging because these students they don't have any physical disability, but their disability is such that it's very difficult to understand them. So trying to understand them takes a lot of time. And then since most of my students are non-verbal, it's very challenging because we cannot communicate like any other students. So that is the most challenging part.
There are only 2 special education teachers at Changangkha Middle Secondary School.
From 2010, this class was fully set up as a self-contained class. Till that time, the children were in the mainstream. So after we have started setting up this classroom, the children were very difficult to handle when they were all put together in one classroom. But as days went by, as years went by, and trying to deal with these children, learning from here and there, from the specialist and all that, and trying to gather resources from here and there, I've found that these children are not really dull. They are some of them are very creative. They have a lot of potential to learn. The only thing is that we need to find out their needs and strengths, and then we try, as teachers, we try to build on their strength. So that way, from 2010 till now, I've found that the students are much better, even to socialize among the students themselves in the school. It has become much better. They get disciplined. They are following the rules of the school. So that itself shows a lot of improvement for the student.
Since I had been only 1.5 years in this special unit, so what I found was they need one-to-one intervention, one-to-one services, and they need large room to move around and while doing the activity, and also they need resources to get different needs.
These children are beautiful. To me, they are very beautiful because long time back, for me, I found it very, very difficult for me to deal with them. But as years go by, being with them all the time, I find that they are beautiful because, like what I said earlier, these children, every child, they are all on the autism spectrum, but each child is different from each other, and each child has a different, capability, their own potential. So we as teachers, we try to find out their needs and strengths, and when we try to build on them, they, sometimes they surprise me. I think that they don't know, but they seem to know more than me, what I think. So that's why I find that they are very beautiful and they are capable of learning. Only thing is the parents need to have a lot of patience in them, and you have to hope that one day these children will learn.
According to a civil society organization called Ability Bhutan Society, there is still stigma associated with disability.
Ability Bhutan Society, under the patronage of Her Majesty, was established on 2011, 10th November. It started with the initiative of the parents who felt that there is a need of the services in Bhutan for their children, because they again felt that they are served by untrained professional, which was a little bit unsecure for them. Children with autism are diagnosed in hospital by pediatrician, and they refer to Ability Bhutan Society for the services required by them. As there is no professionals specialized in autism, it is a challenge for everybody. With parents of children with disability are mostly not socialized much, because they felt that it is a karmic thing, and they sometimes get discriminated, abused, bullied. So they feel insecure to go out and talk about that. But with the help of Ability Bhutan Society and the parent support program, which we have been doing so far, has really brought them forward, and now they have started talking over it and bringing their children forward.
Chichi, Chicharu Sichulu Gudunu, Sangetan, Lobdana Chungo.